Gregory Maxwell walked through the corridor of the Galactic Council station. His shoes made no sound on the smooth metal floor. The station hung in space like a massive crystal, rotating slowly against the black void. Maxwell had traveled 7 months to reach this place. 7 months on a fast ship, away from his family, away from Earth. He was here to do one thing: get humanity into the Galactic Trade Collective. He wore the blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic service. On his chest was the seal of the United Nations. In his hand he carried documents, statistics, and proof that humanity deserved a seat at the council table. Maxwell was 62 years old. He had been a diplomat for 40 years. He had never failed a mission. He did not plan to start now. The council chamber was massive. The ceiling stretched so high that Maxwell could not see where it ended. The walls were made of crystal that glowed with soft light. Arranged in circles around him were representatives from 43 different species. Some floated in special tanks. Some sat on platforms that adjusted to their body shape. Some hung from the ceiling by cords of metal. There were beings made of rock. There were creatures that looked like nothing Maxwell had ever seen before. The Calathian representative stood first. It was tall, with a hard body made of something like chitin. Its voice came from a device that translated its clicks and hisses into human language. The Calathian spoke about human development. It said humanity was still primitive. It said humans were unpredictable and violent. It said Earth had too many wars in its history. Maxwell listened. Then he spoke. He said that humanity had not had a war in 70 years. He said that human technology was advancing faster than any other species in the same stage of development. He gave numbers. He gave examples. He showed videos of human cities, human art, human cooperation. The council listened, but Maxwell saw something in their eyes. They had already decided. They were just going through the motions. They were playing a game they had played before. One by one, other species spoke against humanity. The Zyarthians said humans were not ready. The Andromedan Federation said humanity needed more time. The Calathians repeated their concerns. The Proxima Council members said nothing, which was worse than speaking against him. Their silence meant they did not care enough to even argue. Maxwell stood alone in the center of the chamber. Around him, in circles above him, sat the rulers of the galaxy. They had made their decision long before he walked into this room. They had probably decided it years ago. When humanity first sent a request to join the Trade Collective, Maxwell raised his hand. The chamber went silent. Even the floating creatures stopped moving. Maxwell spoke clearly and without emotion. He said, "I have shown you proof that humanity is ready. I have shown you that we are peaceful, advancing, and worthy of joining your collective. You have rejected us. That is your choice. But I want you to remember this moment. I want you to remember the day you told humanity that we are not good enough. Earth will remember this. This will not be forgotten." The words hung in the air. Maxwell could see some of the council members shift uncomfortably. But the Calathian representative did not move. It seemed to make a decision. Its translator device clicked and hissed. The Calathian said, "This species is too dangerous. They must be removed from this chamber. They must be removed from this station. They must be removed from the galaxy." Maxwell understood what was coming. He had known it was possible from the start. Diplomacy in the galaxy was dangerous. Rejection could mean death. But he had believed in the mission. He had believed that humanity deserved a chance. The other species did not argue with the Calathian. They did not defend Maxwell. They simply watched. Some looked away. Others watched with what might have been curiosity. A few looked sad, but they did nothing. The Calathian raised a device. It was small and black and shaped like nothing on Earth. A beam of energy shot from it. It was not blue or red or orange like weapons in movies. It was invisible, except for the air that shimmered around it. Gregory Maxwell felt the energy hit his chest. It was hot. It was cold. It was everything and nothing all at once. He tried to take a breath, but his lungs would not work. He tried to speak, but his voice was gone. His vision became dark at the edges. He tried to focus on the Calevian, tried to stare at the creature that was killing him. But his eyes would not obey. The last thing Gregory Maxwell heard was the click and hiss of the Calathian's voice, saying something that his translation device did not bother to translate. Then there was nothing. Maxwell's body fell to the metal floor of the council chamber. It did not move. The beam stopped. The Calathian lowered its weapon. In the silence of the chamber, no one spoke. No one moved. The body of Gregory Maxwell, ambassador from Earth, lay on the cold metal floor beneath the gaze of all the galaxy's power. The Calathian turned to the council. It spoke again. The translator said, "The threat is removed. The problem is solved. Earth will send no more envoys to trouble us. The species known as humanity will retreat to their home world and fade into nothing." But the Calathian was wrong. It had made the biggest mistake of its life. It had not just killed a diplomat. It had started a war far away on a planet called Earth. Technology would activate. Warnings would sound. Military stations would light up across 3 continents. And a message would be sent through space to every human ship, every human station, every human installation in the galaxy. The message would contain only a few words. It was a recording of Maxwell's final statement. It would be sent again and again, growing stronger with each repetition. Every human in space would hear it. Every human commander would listen to it. Earth will remember this. Earth will remember this. Earth will remember this. The galaxy had made a terrible mistake. It had shown humanity what happened when it tried to be peaceful. It had shown humanity that weakness brought execution. Now humanity would show the galaxy what happened when you pushed them too far. Now humanity would show the galaxy what Deathworlders could really do. Patricia Hollis was asleep in her quarters when the alarm went off. She had been sleeping for 3 hours. Before that, she had been awake for 20 hours straight, dealing with reports from the outer stations. She was the commander of Earth Defense, and sleep was a luxury she did not often allow herself. The alarm was not the regular alarm. It was the deep alarm. The alarm that came from the emergency communication station. Hollis was on her feet before she was fully awake. She pulled on her uniform jacket and ran to the command center. The center was located deep underground, beneath the mountains of Colorado. No laser could reach it. No bomb could destroy it. The walls were thick metal and concrete. The communication systems were the most advanced on Earth. In peacetime, the center ran with a small staff. In emergency, it came alive. Hollis pushed through the door. Junior Commander Paul Davis was standing at the main console. His face was white. When he saw Hollis, he handed her a printed message without speaking. Hollis read it once. Then she read it again. The words did not change. Ambassador Gregory Maxwell, executed by order of Galactic Council. Status: deceased. Body location: Galactic Council Station Alpha. Transmitted by Ambassador Security Detail. Transmission time: 3 hours ago. Hollis felt the blood leave her face. Maxwell had been a friend. She had known him for 15 years. She had recommended him for the diplomatic mission. She had believed that he was the right person to negotiate humanity's entry into the Trade Collective. She sat down slowly in the command chair. She did not speak for a long time. Finally, she said, "Get me the president. Get me every military commander with rank of colonel or higher. Get me the heads of all our space installations. And get me the full transmission from the ambassador's security detail. Davis moved fast. He made the calls. Within minutes, screens around the command center lit up with faces. Some faces were calm. Some were angry. All of them were shocked. President Victoria Harrison's face appeared on the main screen. She was at the White House in Washington, D.C. It was early morning there. She was still in her robe, but her face was sharp and awake. She had heard the news already. "Tell me everything," Harrison said. Hollis ordered the security detail transmission to be played. The recording was not clear. The camera was shaking. The audio cut in and out. But the message was unmistakable. The Calathian had executed Maxwell. The council had watched and did nothing. When the transmission ended, the room was completely silent. Harrison spoke first. "Do we have confirmation from other sources?" "Two independent transmissions from human traders in the sector," Davis said. "One from a freighter captain, one from a merchant. Both confirm Maxwell is dead." "Options," Harrison said. The word was cold and hard. Hollis took a breath. "We have several. We can issue a formal protest through diplomatic channels. We can demand an apology and compensation. We can withdraw from all trade agreements with the Calathians. Or we can respond militarily." "Military response options," Harrison said. Hollis gestured to the communications officer. "Pull up the secret fleets." The screens changed. They showed images of ships. Hundreds of ships. Some floated in orbit around the Earth. Some were hidden in the asteroid belt. Some were in dry dock in the Pacific Ocean. They were the most advanced military vessels humanity had ever built. They had been built in secret for 15 years. They had been built for exactly this kind of situation. "Show her the weapons," Hollis said. More screens came to life. They showed the specifications of the ship-to-ship weapons, the fusion missiles, the quantum targeting systems, the energy cannons, the defense shields. Every ship had been built using technology that was a full 30 years ahead of what the Galactic Council thought humanity possessed. Harrison stared at the screens for a long time. Around the command center, every military commander was staring at their screens in their own locations. Generals in Tokyo, admirals in Rio de Janeiro, colonels in Moscow. All of them were seeing the same information. "How many ships do we have ready for deployment?" Harrison asked. 47 capital ships, Hollis said. 123 support vessels. 318 fighter craft. All fully crewed and fully armed. We can have the first strike fleet ready to launch in 6 hours. Harrison did not hesitate. "Do it. Prepare all 3 fleets for deployment. I want them in deep space within 12 hours. Get me the commanders of the Prometheus fleet, the Guardian fleet, and the Vanguard fleet, and I want a message sent to the Galactic Council." "What should the message say?" Davis asked. Harrison looked directly at the camera. Her eyes were hard. "Send them this. Tell them that Earth has received confirmation of Ambassador Gregory Maxwell's death. Tell them that Earth will not tolerate the execution of its citizens. Tell them that we are mobilizing our military forces. Tell them that they have one chance to surrender the individuals responsible, and that chance is disappearing. Tell them that if they do not comply within 1 week, we will start removing them from the galaxy permanently." "That's a direct threat," one of the generals said from his screen. "Yes," Harrison said. "It is, and it is not a threat we cannot back up. These people killed our ambassador. They executed a man who was trying to bring peace. They thought we were weak. They were wrong." Hollis said, "I will prepare the movement orders immediately." "Do it," Harrison said. "And Patricia, one more thing." "Yes, Madam President." "Make sure every human who hears about this knows what happened. I want the news broadcast across the planet. I want everyone to know that Gregory Maxwell died trying to represent us. I want everyone to know that the Galactic Council executed him without trial. And I want everyone to know that we are responding. Understood, Madam President. The screens went dark. The work began. In the command center, officers and technicians started moving with purpose. Messages were sent to space stations. Orders went to ship captains. Crews were called to their duty stations. Weapons were charged. Fuel tanks were filled. Engines that had been dormant for months came to life. On the screens, the ship images began to move. They were turning. They were leaving their hiding places. They were orienting toward the direction of the Galactic Council station. The secret was over. Humanity was no longer hiding its military strength. The galaxy was about to learn what it meant to kill a human envoy in orbit around Earth. The first fleet commander, Vincent Drake, watched as his flagship came online. He had been told to expect this day for 15 years. He had trained for it. He had prepared for it. But now that it was here, it felt different. It felt real. Drake opened a communication channel. His voice went out to every ship in the Prometheus fleet. All hands, this is Commander Drake. We have a mission. We are going to the stars, and we are going to make the galaxy pay for what they have done to one of ours. Sound general quarters. I want every system online in 5 minutes. The fleet began to move. The first battle of humanity's war with the galaxy had not started yet. But it was coming. It was coming fast. Vincent Drake stood on the bridge of the Endeavor. The flagship was massive, a ship that could carry 3,000 crew members and launch 200 weapon systems at once. The bridge windows looked out into space, and space was now filled with ships. The Prometheus fleet, the Guardian fleet, the Vanguard fleet, more than 300 human warships. It was a beautiful sight. It was also a terrifying sight. Drake was 55 years old. He had been a military officer for 37 years. He had commanded smaller ships, larger ships, space stations, and planetary defenses. He had trained for war his entire life. But he had never expected to command a fleet like this. He had never expected to face an enemy like this. The galaxy was old. The Galactic Council had existed for more than 500,000 years. Earth had barely been in space for 100 years. The communication officer, Lieutenant Lisa Chang, turned to face Drake. She had been crying, but her face was now set and hard. Commander, we are receiving messages from every human military station in the sector. All ships have reported ready status. We have full combat power. How long until we reach the Calathian outpost at Kepler Station? Drake asked. 3 weeks at top speed, Chang said. 2 weeks if we push the engines to maximum. Push them to maximum, Drake said. I want to be there in 2 weeks. He opened a general communication channel. His voice went out to every ship and every fleet. This is Commander Drake. We have a target. The Calathian military outpost at Kepler Station. This is where they keep their weapons. This is where they train their soldiers. We are going to destroy it. We are going to do this for Gregory Maxwell. We are going to do this for Earth. We are going to show the galaxy what humanity can do. The response came back immediately. From every ship, from every captain, from every crew member who could access the communication, system, agreement, support, anger, determination. Drake closed the channel. He looked out at the fleet surrounding the Endeavor. Ships of different sizes. Ships with different weapons. Ships built over 15 years in secret facilities across the planet. Ships that had never seen combat. Ships that were about to change the entire history of the galaxy. Dr. Marcus Webb was the weapons specialist on the Endeavor. He was 48 years old and brilliant. He had helped design the weapon systems that were now loaded onto every human warship. He had never expected to actually use them. He had built them as a deterrent. He had hoped they would never be fired in anger. Now he was preparing them for combat. Webb sat in the weapons control room, deep in the belly of the ship. Screens surrounded him on all sides. Each screen showed the status of weapon systems. Fusion missiles loaded in launch tubes. Quantum cannons charged and ready. Defense shields online. Every weapon was tested and confirmed operational. Webb typed on his console. Lines of code appeared on the screens. These were the targeting algorithms. These were the programs that would guide the weapons to the Calathian station. He had written these programs himself. He had made sure they would work. Now they would be used. A younger officer, Ensign Robert Ford, was assisting him. Ford was 24 years old, fresh from training academy. He had joined the military because he believed in protecting humanity. He had never thought that would actually happen. "Dr. Webb," Ford said quietly, "how many Calathians are at that station?" Webb did not look away from his screens. "Approximately 50,000 military personnel and support staff. Are we going to kill them all?" Ford asked. Webb finally looked at the young man. "Yes, probably." Ford swallowed hard. "They killed Ambassador Maxwell." "They did," Webb said. "And now we are going to respond. This is what war looks like, Ensign. This is what happens when you attack humanity." Up on the bridge, Drake was coordinating with the other fleet commanders. Admiral Sarah Hudson commanded the Guardian fleet. Her voice came through the communication system, clear and steady. "Prometheus Fleet, this is Guardian Command. We are positioned and ready. The Vanguard Fleet reports full status. We are 3 weeks out from Kepler Station at current speed." "Guardian Command, we are pushing to maximum speed," Drake said. "I want to be there in 14 days. That gives us time to prepare and gives the Calathians no time to respond." "Copy that, Prometheus Command. We will match your speed." Drake looked at the star map. The red line showed their course. The blue mark showed the Calathian station. The distance between them was closing. Every hour they traveled, they came closer to the first battle. The message that Earth had sent to the Galactic Council had been simple and direct. Earth demanded the surrender of those responsible for Maxwell's death. Earth demanded that the Calathian species withdraw from the Council. Earth demanded these things within 1 week. If the demands were not met, military action would begin. The Council's response had come back quickly. They denied the charges. They said Maxwell had been a threat. They said the execution was justified. They said that if Earth attempted military action, the entire Galactic Council would unite against humanity. They said humans would be destroyed. Drake had read the Council's response. It showed that they still did not understand what they were facing. They believed that the numbers of the Council's member species would be enough to stop humanity. They had never fought anyone who had actually tasted what human determination looked like. On Kepler Station, the Calathian military commander was receiving reports. A human fleet was approaching. A very large human fleet. The commander had sent a message to the Galactic Council asking for backup. The response had been slow. Other species did not want to get involved. They did not want to be seen as supporting the Calathians. The commander realized too late that he was on his own. The days passed. The human fleets traveled through space, moving faster than they had ever moved before. The crews worked constantly, preparing weapons, running through combat simulations, getting ready for the moment when theory would become reality. Drake stood on the bridge and watched the star map. The red line of their course was burning in his mind. He thought about Gregory Maxwell. He had met the ambassador once, at a reception at the United Nations building in New York. Maxwell had been kind and had asked Drake about his family. Drake had a wife and 2 children. They were safe on Earth. They were waiting for him to come back. "Commander," Chang said, "we are receiving a message from Earth Command. Put it through, Drake said. President Harrison's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired, but her eyes were sharp. Commander Drake, you have been authorized to proceed with all necessary force against the Calathian forces at Kepler Station. Earth supports you completely. Make them pay for what they did. Yes, Madam President, Drake said. We will not fail. The communication ended. Drake turned back to the star map. The days were counting down. In less than 2 weeks, the human fleets would arrive at Kepler Station. In less than 2 weeks, the Calathians would learn what it meant to execute a human envoy. The fleets moved through space like hunters. They were silent. They were steady. They were coming. On stations across the galaxy, other species were watching. They were seeing the human fleets mobilize. They were hearing Earth's demands. They were watching to see what would happen next. Some species were afraid. Some species were curious. Some species were starting to regret voting for Maxwell's execution. But none of them moved to help the Calathians. None of them sent military support. The Calathians were alone. And the humans were coming. The Galactic Council chamber had never known silence like this. The vast crystal hall that had stood for 500,000 years was empty of the confident noise that usually filled it. There were no debates. There were no agreements. There was only fear. The council members gathered in emergency session. They were watching the data come in from across the galaxy. One by one, human targets were being attacked. The Calathian military station at Kepler had been destroyed in less than 4 hours. 40,000 Calathians dead. The defense systems had been inadequate. The humans had overwhelming firepower. They had superior tactics. They had perfect coordination. The Calathian representative was no longer in the chamber. It had retreated to its own vessel to direct its home defense. In its place sat an aide, a younger Calathian who kept receiving messages and relaying information. The second station is under attack, the aide announced. The humans are using weapons we did not predict. Missiles that navigate through our defense fields. Lasers that cut through our best armor. They are destroying our orbital platforms one by one. The Xyathian representative rose from its platform. This is madness. We must vote to stop this immediately. We must revoke the execution order. We must apologize to Earth. We cannot undo an execution, the Andromedan representative said. It was a tall being made of crystal that refracted light in strange ways. The human ambassador is dead. An apology does not restore life. Then what do you suggest? The Xyathian demanded. The Andromedan did not answer. No one had an answer. They had all agreed that humanity was too young, too primitive, too unstable to join the Galactic Trade Collective. They had thought that humanity was still struggling with basic technology. They had thought that Earth was a young world that would take centuries to develop real power. They had been catastrophically wrong. More messages came in. The human fleets were not stopping. Every Calathian military installation was being systematically destroyed. Supply ships were targeted. Communication stations were obliterated. Weapons factories were razed to the ground. The humans were being precise and methodical. They were not attacking civilian populations. They were not destroying infrastructure that had nothing to do with the military. They were simply erasing the Calathian war machine. The Proxima Council member, a being of pure energy that was contained in a special chamber, transmitted a message. We propose immediate negotiations. We should contact the human leadership and offer terms. What terms can we offer? The Andromedan asked. They have asked for a complete surrender of those responsible for the execution and exile of Calathian leadership from the Council. They are winning. They have no reason to negotiate from a position of weakness. Admiral Chun, commander of the Human Guardian Fleet, sent a message that was broadcast to all Council installations. His face appeared on every screen across the galaxy. This is Admiral Chun, Commander of the Earth Defense Fleet. I am transmitting this message to all members of the Galactic Council. The species of Earth seeks only justice. Ambassador Gregory Maxwell was executed without trial, without cause, without legitimate reason. We have demanded that those responsible be surrendered to face justice. We have demanded that the Calathian leadership be removed from the Council permanently. These are not unreasonable demands. These are demands for basic respect and basic law. If you comply with these demands within 14 days, this war will stop. If you do not comply, we will continue removing military threats until the entire Calathian civilization has been destroyed. The message repeated 3 times, then ended. The chamber erupted in chaos. Species that had never argued before were now fighting. The Calathians were demanding support from their allies. The allies were refusing to give it. No one wanted to be seen as supporting the Calathians. No one wanted to be on the wrong side of a war with humanity. A message came from the edge of the galaxy. It was from a human trading vessel, a small ship that had been traveling between stations. The captain's name was David Porter. He was broadcasting in the open so that all species could hear him. I am Captain David Porter of the merchant vessel Springfield. I was at Kepler Station when the human fleets attacked. I watched from a distance as they destroyed the military installations. I want all of you to know something. The humans were not cruel. They did not kill civilians. They did not destroy the city. They only destroyed the military targets. They fought with honor. They fought with restraint. And they are winning. This is what justice looks like when it comes from a species that knows how to win a war. The broadcast ended. The council members sat in silence. More targets fell. The Calathian shipyards in the Andromeda sector were destroyed. The weapons manufacturing plants were obliterated. Every military facility that the Calathians had hidden across the galaxy was being found and destroyed. The humans had intelligence that should not have been possible. They had maps of Calathian installations that should have been secret. It appeared that Earth had been gathering information for years, probably waiting for exactly this situation. The Xyarthian representative called for an emergency vote. The motion was simple: revoke the execution order, condemn the execution order as a violation of council law, and offer reparations to Earth. The vote was 42 in favor, 0 against, with the Calathians abstaining. Only the Calathians did not vote to revoke what they had done. A message was sent to Admiral Chun. It informed him of the vote. It asked him to stop the military action. It offered compensation. It offered to turn over the Calathian leadership for trial. Chun's response was immediate. The vote is acknowledged. However, the Calathian leadership has not been surrendered. Compensation is not acceptable for the death of Ambassador Maxwell. Military action will continue until we receive the individuals responsible. You have 10 days. The Calathian leadership was hiding. The Calathian commander refused to surrender. The Calathian government was in chaos. On the council, the species that had voted for Maxwell's execution were in shock. They had thought that executing one human would not matter. They had thought that Earth was too small, too weak, too insignificant to respond. They had been catastrophically wrong. A young Calathian officer named Thrain was stationed at a remote outpost. He had been promoted just 3 months ago. He was supposed to have a long career ahead of him. Instead, he was watching his entire world collapse. The human attack came at dawn. Missiles dropped from the sky. The base shook. Alarms screamed. Officers shouted orders. But there was nowhere to run. The humans had positioned their ships to cut off all escape routes. Thrain ran to his weapons station and tried to fire at the human vessels. His weapons did not work. The humans had jammed his communications. The humans had disabled his systems from a distance. The base was falling apart around him. Thrain looked out the window. He saw a human ship descending. It was sleek and dark and impossibly large. He had never seen anything like it before. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. It was the last thing he ever saw. On the Endeavor, Drake watched the battle results come in. Target after target was being destroyed. The Calathians were fighting hard, but they were outgunned and outpositioned. The human fleets were executing a perfect military campaign. "Status report," Drake said. "All targets for this phase have been neutralized," Chang reported. "We are awaiting orders for the next phase." Drake looked at the star map. Most of the Calathian military was gone. Their fleets had been destroyed. Their stations had been eliminated. Their weapons had been silenced. The Calathians could no longer threaten anyone. "Send a message to all Calathian installations," Drake said. "Tell them they have 8 days. Either they surrender their leadership to Earth, or we will continue destroying everything they have." The message was sent. It was broadcast on all frequencies. Every Calathian in the galaxy heard it. And they knew that the humans meant what they said. The humans had the power to do exactly what they promised. The Galactic Council was watching the destruction of one of its member species, and no one was moving to help. The age of human weakness was over. The age of human fear was over. The age of human dominance was beginning. On the 9th day, the Calathian leadership surrendered. They came to the Endeavor in a small transport ship, flying slowly with all weapons powered down. There were 5 of them, including the Calathian commander who had voted for Maxwell's execution. They surrendered themselves completely to Admiral Chun and asked for mercy. Drake did not give them mercy. He gave them justice. They were placed in holding cells, guarded by human soldiers. They would be taken to Earth to face trial. The laws of humanity would judge them. The people of Earth would watch as justice was done. The message was sent to all Galactic Council members. The Calathian leadership had surrendered. The immediate threat had been eliminated. But Earth was not finished. Drake sent a second message. This one was from President Harrison, recorded at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Her voice was calm but firm. "I am speaking to the members of the Galactic Council. Humanity has achieved its objective. Those responsible for Ambassador Gregory Maxwell's death have surrendered. They will face justice under Earth law. However, the Galactic Council will be restructured. Any decision to execute a being must be unanimous. Any decision to execute must be preceded by a full investigation. And any species that votes to execute another species without cause will face consequences. This is not negotiable. This is not up for debate. This is the new law of this galaxy. Humanity is no longer a young species that will be dismissed. Humanity is a force in this galaxy, and humanity will not tolerate the killing of its people." The broadcast ended. The galaxy went silent. Over the next 3 weeks, the restructuring of the Galactic Council began. New laws were written. New rules were established. The species that had voted to execute Maxwell were stripped of voting rights for 10 years. The Calathian species was suspended from the Council entirely, pending a full review of their government. The Calathian commander who had executed Maxwell was scheduled for trial on Earth, but more important was something else that happened. Species that had been neutral started reaching out to Earth. They wanted to make trade agreements. They wanted to establish diplomatic relationships. They wanted to be on the good side of humanity. The Andromedan Federation was first. The Zyrthian Collective followed. Then the Proxima Council members. One by one, species that had ignored humanity now wanted to be friends. Earth accepted the agreements, but on Earth's terms. The trade deals were favorable to humanity. The diplomatic relationships gave Earth a strong voice in the Council. Humanity had entered the galaxy from a position of weakness. Now humanity had entered a position of strength. Admiral Chun commanded the fleets back to Earth. The journey took 3 weeks. During those 3 weeks, Earth prepared for the return. Cities prepared celebrations. Families prepared for the return of their loved ones. The nation prepared for a new status in the galaxy. When the fleets entered Earth's orbit, they were met with a sight that no human had ever seen before. Every nation on Earth had sent ships to space to welcome the fleets home. The American Navy, the European Space Force, the Chinese Space Command, the Indian military. Civilian ships filled the skies. It was a display of human unity and human pride. The Endeavour descended to the Pacific Ocean. A special dock had been prepared. When the ship settled into place, the crew began disembarking. Admiral Chun was first off the ship. He walked down the ramp and stepped onto human soil for the first time in 3 months. President Harrison was waiting for him. She saluted him. Chun returned the salute. When he dropped his hand, Harrison extended her own hand. They shook, and the cameras captured the moment. The moment when Earth's military commander returned victorious. "Welcome home." "Admiral," Harrison said. "It is good to be home." "Madam President," Chun said that the Calathian leadership was taken into custody by Earth's security forces. They were processed and prepared for trial. The trial would be broadcast to the entire galaxy. Everyone would see what Earth justice looked like. But before the trial began, something else happened. Gregory Maxwell's body was brought back from the Galactic Council Station. It had been preserved in a stasis field. The human scientists who examined it confirmed that he could not be revived. He was truly dead. There was no bringing him back. His funeral was held at Arlington National Cemetery. More than 1 billion humans watched the broadcast. People from every nation came to pay their respects. World leaders gave speeches. Scientists spoke about Maxwell's achievements. Diplomats spoke about his courage. But in the end, it was simple. Gregory Maxwell had given his life trying to bring peace. And in doing so, he had changed humanity's place in the galaxy forever. His final words were carved into a monument at the cemetery. Earth will remember this. And Earth did remember. Every human who was alive when Maxwell was executed would carry that moment with them forever. Every human born after would know the story. Every human in the galaxy would know what it meant to kill a human envoy. The trial of the Calathian leadership lasted 3 weeks. The evidence was presented. Witnesses testified. The camera feeds from the council chamber were shown, proving what had happened. The Calathian commander, standing before the court, admitted that he had ordered the execution. He said that he had believed Maxwell was a threat. He said that he had believed Earth was too dangerous. The judge, a woman named Helen Morris, listened to all the evidence. Then she gave her judgment. The Calathian commander was found guilty of murder. He was sentenced to 100 years in prison. The other leaders were found guilty of conspiracy and accessory to murder. They were each sentenced to 50 years in prison. The sentence shocked many species. They had expected Earth to ask for death. Instead, Earth had asked for justice, but not vengeance. It showed that humanity understood the difference between punishment and revenge. After the trial, President Harrison held a press conference. Reporters from across the galaxy attended. Earth is now fully integrated into the galactic community, Harrison said. We will trade fairly with other species. We will cooperate on matters of mutual interest. We will work for peace. But we will never forget that we were attacked. We will never forget that an ambassador was executed. And we will never allow another human to be killed without justice. Earth is now a full member of this galactic community, and we will be respected. The next phase began. Human traders moved into the galactic trade routes. Human scientists shared technology with other species. Human diplomats worked to establish alliances. But always, there was the memory of Maxwell. Always, there was the understanding that Earth would not tolerate disrespect. 10 years passed. The Calathian commander was released early due to good behavior. The Calathian species was readmitted to the Galactic Council under strict new rules. Trade between Earth and the Calathians resumed, but cautiously. Both sides understood what the other was capable of. In the Galactic Archive, a monument was placed. It showed an image of Gregory Maxwell. Below the image were his final words. Every species in the galaxy could read those words. Every being in the galaxy understood their meaning. The old order of the galaxy had been replaced with a new order. The new order understood that humanity was not weak. The new order understood that Earth had to be treated with respect. The new order understood that one human life was worth something, and that destroying it had consequences. Admiral Chun retired after the war. He became a teacher, instructing young officers in military tactics. He lived a quiet life with his family, but he was always known as the man who had led humanity's first military campaign in space. He was known as the man who had made the galaxy understand what humans could do. Drake continued his service. He was promoted to Fleet Admiral and given command of all Earth's military forces in space. He worked to maintain the peace that had been bought with Maxwell's life. He worked to ensure that no other human would have to die the way Maxwell had died. Years passed. Decades passed. The story of Gregory Maxwell and Earth's response spread through the galaxy. Younger species learned about it in school. Older species remembered it as a turning point. The moment when humanity stopped being a young, weak species and became a power that had to be respected. In the end, it was not the weapons that changed the galaxy. It was the fact that humanity was willing to use them to protect its own. It was the fact that humans would not accept the death of one of their people without response. It was the fact that humans could be peaceful, but only as long as other species respected that peace. The Galactic Council never executed another being without a full investigation and unanimous vote. The law that Earth had demanded was kept for thousands of years. And every time that law was invoked, species remembered why it was there. They remembered Gregory Maxwell. They remembered Earth. In the end, Earth had not conquered the galaxy. Earth had simply shown the galaxy that it should not be taken for granted. And that simple lesson changed everything. The age of human weakness was over. The age of human respect had begun.